Hello YouTube friends, welcome to the Last Homely House. I've got another cool video for you today. Really excited about this one. If you've been watching my recent videos about using up my fabric stash, we've all got one and I've got a massive one. And so this year, 2025, is the year of using what you have. Now, sometimes that just means little scrappy bits of nonsense, but actually I've got this really beautiful layer cake of Kaffe Fassett Spots. And I must have bought this like 3 or 4 years ago, thinking I would do something fun with it. And I never have, so today's its day. I'm going to use these spots here to make a quilt that I've had in my mind for a little while. Now, I think you know that I'm a grandma, but I'm also a great aunt. Great Aunt Kate? That makes me sound about 500 years old, doesn't it? Well, I am a great aunt, and I will be seeing my great niece quite soon, and I want to make this as a surprise for her. So if you're watching, great niece, stop now, because otherwise I'll spoil the surprise. What I've decided I would like to do for her is a Wonky Star quilt. A Wonky Star is a block that I really enjoy making. I've made it a number of times. I remember making it for the Advent series that I did over on Patreon, and we did it here a few years ago for a Christmas video that I made. It's a fantastic block. It's really easy to make, and I'm going to make each of the stars out of one colour of spots and each of the backgrounds of the stars out of one colour of plain fabric, because I have a lot of plains. I wonder if you saw that video where I made the circles quilt, where I could think of it as my planets quilt. We'll leave links to these things in the show notes down below. But the circles quilt was scrappy middles in one colour, and then the outside was all one plain colour of fabric. And I made a big dent in the plains when I made that quilt, but I still have a lot of them left. So I have this layer cake of spots here, a big box of scraps here, and the size that I've decided to make, and you can see it over my shoulder on the board here, I've made the first one, and I'm going to use 2.5-inch squares to make the 9 patch that makes up this block, which means that I can use jelly rolls, and I have a fair few of those. I can also use a charm pack square if I've got some of those, and just cut it into 4, because that will make my 2.5-inch square. So that's what I'm going to do. First of all, I'm just going to cut loads of 2.5-inch strips and then into 2.5-inch squares and take them over to the sewing machine and then match them up and make stars and stars and more stars. Haven't worked out how big this quilt's going to be yet. We'll just see how far it goes. She's just little. It doesn't need to be very big for her, but we'll see how the colours all fit together and how these spotty spots all work together. They're beautiful spots. Kaffe Fassett Spots. Look at them. Aren't they fantastic? A number of years ago, I used fabric, obviously not this fabric, but I used this fabric range, and I made a quilt. In fact, we'll put a picture of it in here. It's a Dresden plate quilt, and it was all spots and plains. And I guess when I was thinking about what I might make, that quilt kind of popped into my head in terms of plains and spots. So I think I'll get cutting, I'll get stitching, and we'll see if we can get quite a few more stars on this board behind me here and see how they all look. So I can feel a production line coming over me of cutting and pairing and sewing. And here's my secret weapon.
Hello.
This is my daughter-in-law Anna, who helps me out here. A lot of you already know her. And what we're going to do today then, I'm giving Anna the task of finding the colour in the plains box, finding the spots, cutting them and pairing them up.
Fantastic.
Great. And then I'm going to get a production line going, sewing them.
Great.
So,
it's going to look so cool.
It's already looking good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is. Okay,
let's
do this.
Blinky blonky music.
Yes. Do you want a cup of tea?
Oh, yes. Where is it? Oh,
there. Let's get your tea going. Here we go. It's going to be fueled by tea.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, and cue music. So I've made a few more of these star blocks now, and I've got some more laid out ready to make, and I'll show you how I make this one. So here are my 8 little 2.5 inches, and I just lay those out like this. 2.5 inch square works perfectly for a block that finishes at 6.5 inches. So we put those all there like so. And that's our middle one. Okay, now this is the same fabric obviously, and I've just cut, I haven't actually measured these, I sort of eyeball this because remember it's a Wonky Star, and so we want them to be slightly different sizes, and there are 4 pieces here, and I'm just going to cut them kind of at an angle randomly. If you make these, you'll get to know what sizes you need to make. And then there's one's going that way, one's going this way, and I take my first 2.5 inch square and I place it on where I want it to be, because you want to be careful that the fabric completely covers that corner, and then I can flip that over and stitch that in place. Now when I'm placing this, I like to make sure that I aim for around about the middle of the block with this bit here, and then we're going to chain piece these. So again, I'm just going to kind of eyeball this one round about the middle of that block there, and then I do all of one side, and that's why it works cutting this on an angle, because the other side will fit on the other bit. In a minute you will see. Wonky, remember, so place them slightly differently sometimes. There we go. And then the setup I've got works perfectly because I've got my ironing board right next to me here. I'll just snip those apart. And then I'm going to iron these open. Okay, all 4 of those. Now, we've got all those sides there now, and now we need the other side of the point of the star leg. And then I'm going to sort of work out where this goes. And when I'm doing this, I want to make sure that this leg or star point crosses over this one and leaves me a little bit of space. I'll explain why when I'm sewing them together. And then flip that over. Just make sure that's where I want it to be. And we do that with 4 of these now. This is a nice colour combo. The blue and white and the blue. I think this one's going to look lovely. Okay. 4 of these. All right. And then I'm going to iron those open in exactly the same way. So now, turning it over, I want to trim it to this size. Now you can do that with scissors if you like, but I've got this little ruler. So let's go over to my cutting mat. So I've got this little 2.5 inch ruler. Now you can do it with any ruler. this is just a handy little thing to have because this finishes at 2.5 inches. So I'm going to trim these excess bits off. Watch you don't move your ruler. Like so. And then to reduce the bulk here, I'm going to trim this off so that that now can sit back in the block. Now be careful when you do that, because I've got one here to show you. Look at that. You only do that once, don't you? Be very careful when you're trimming off your bulk there that you don't trim off your newly sewn on star point. That was a mistake. Now if you haven't got a 2.5 inch ruler, any old ruler will do. Or, as I say, you can cut it with scissors if you prefer. So you can just scoot it like so. Okay. Oh, that's a wonky one, isn't it? That's a tiny little wonky. And it's easier to do it from the back so that you can use your block, your little square block, as your guide. Okay then, so lay them all back down here, and then I'm going to do a little bit of webbing, which is that technique I really like to do, to join all these together. So I'm going to take the first two, the top two here, and when I'm sewing these together, I'm not sewing them 1/4 inch. I'm sewing them a scant 1/4 inch, you know that one, because I want these to be as big as possible, so I'm not actually taking a whole 1/2 inch off all the edges. The next two includes the middle one here, and I leave them chain pieced together for the next operation. This is where my little thread money comes in handy. Run that off there like so, and then I open this one out and put the next block on. Line that up carefully, and the next one. Now you can't get this wrong, you can only open it one way, so it's not like you can sew it onto the wrong part. And one more thing I want to show you, this is just a preference for me personally. I like my star points to I'm going to ask Anna to pass me one off the board. So this is something that personally I like to do. I like to make sure that this bit of the star here doesn't get swallowed up by the centre bit here. So it's just a personal preference thing. All of the star points, oh, that one's just on the edge there, but it's if I'd sewn that any further in, you would have had the star points disappearing inside here. Try it and you'll see what I mean. But in order to do that, what you need to do is there's on the back of your sewing here, there's what I think it's, everyone calls it the magic X, this bit here, and that's where my point's going to be. So when I'm sewing, I like to make sure I'm this side. I'm the seam side of the magic X. It's just a little thing, but it makes me happy. Okay, so then you sew the last one on there, like that. Leave all the chain piecing. And then when I open this out, the block's in perfect order. And then I just turn it over and flip it round, and I finger press these so that I can get the seams to nest. They line up absolutely beautifully, and I just check that they're going in opposite directions. do that magic X again. And you can see how little my 1/4 inch is. That's, of course, a 1/4 inch, but I'm doing a very skimpy 1/4 inch. And then when we fold this one over, I can nest these seams again. And there's the block done. I just need to press it now. So when it's beautifully pressed now, I take it to the cutting mat, and I have a 6.5 inch ruler, but if you don't have that, then just cut it to 6.5 inches. And I'm just going to trim all these raw edges off. And this is why doing that scant 1/4 inch gives me a little bit of room to trim this block up, so that then it's ready to go on the board with all its friends. So I'm just getting the next one ready now, and I've got quite a few more paired up and ready to go, and I'm going to make as many as I can, or as many as I think I need to, and then start designing them on the board. Because at the moment I don't know which one's going to go next to which one, and that's the fun part of doing this now, is matching them all up, who they're going to be next to. So I'm going to do this one now, and then I've got a few more on the ironing board there to do, and we'll see what they all look like on the board in a minute. I've spent all afternoon sewing, and I've made a lot more blocks, so let's put them up. This isn't the final way that they'll go up. I'll just put them up for now, making sure that there aren't two exactly the same next to each other, and we'll see how far this takes us. Now I've got enough of this spotty material to do another star, another set of stars. I'm not sure how much of the background fabric I've got, but it would be cool, wouldn't it, if I needed more, to make a star and then put a different colour background. That might be quite nice. So this is just the first look. That one's very blue there. Let's just put you at the bottom blue. This is going to be fun, designing this so that we get the colours all spread out. And these blocks are 6.5, so they'll finish at 6 inches. And I like square things. These blocks are square, and the quilt being square would be quite nice, I think. And then when I'm making a quilt, maybe you do this too, I start thinking about how I might quilt it if I'm going to hand quilt it. And I had an idea, that I've never done this before, that I might tie this one. What do you think about that for an idea? It might be, oh, that's nice. I think I like that one very much. Green and yellow, that's nice. So I could tie it. I could tie each of these junctions, or maybe in the middle of each star. What do you think? Be an experience, wouldn't it? Okay, some of them I'm not so sure about. If you remember back to the quilt that I think of as the planets quilt, the circles with all the scraps in, I actually ejected the orange ones, but when I was putting this together and I came upon this orange and purple here, I thought I'm going to risk it. I quite like that one actually, because mixed in with all of these other ones, it's got it has a place, I think. We'll see. Who knows, we might have to eject the orange again. Orange and purple, you see, there's loads of orange and purple in this quilt. Okay, there's 30 blocks, 5 by 6. And if I did 6 by 6, that would be that. So I was saying, these finish at 6 inches by the time I've sewn them together, which cinches it in quite a bit. That's not big enough. we'll definitely have to make some more of those. And so that's what I'll do. I'll cut some more background colours and star points, and we'll have another go. I really like how it looks. I'll tell you, one of the things I like a lot is when these 4 blocks come together here. And yes, we've got the stars and they look lovely, but then we've got these 4 colours here coming together. So when I do finally place this out, I'll make sure that this junction here and here is very pleasing, so that I like that as well. I had a small idea that I might snowball these corners so that I could have a, you know, like put a little triangle here, so that I could have a little square there. I think the scale of this is small, and so I don't know whether that would look any good. So I'm going to leave that and leave those lovely blocks coming together, like so. So there's a few things to think about. How many more blocks to make, how to lay them all out, whether or not I'm going to tie this quilt. The binding, I haven't thought about the binding. The back of the quilt, I have an idea for the back of the quilt that I might share with you next time, because the next time you see this, I'll show you how far I've got with all of those thoughts and decisions. But for now, I'm pleased with how it's coming together. I keep wondering which my favourite block is, and I like that one very much. And I like that one, I've said that already, I really like that one. And that one. Once I start doing this, I think I'm going to end up liking them all. So this is going to be a fun quilt to finish, and you'll see that next time. And so thanks so much for watching this one. If you do make a Wonky Star block and you want to show me what it looks like, hashtag on Instagram. If you hashtag me on Instagram, Kate at the Last Homely House, I'll see those things there. I like to see all the things you're making. So that would be lovely, do that. And I'll see you here next time, possibly with the finish on this, or possibly with something else, because that's how it is here at the Last Homely House, all sorts happening. And I just want to thank you very much for watching. So give me a thumbs up, and don't forget when you subscribe to put your notifications on so that you don't miss when I next post a video. So thanks so much. I'll see you next time. But I'm going to pair some more stars and solids together now. So have you had any experience of tying a quilt? Because it's not something that I'm familiar with or that I've done. And so if you have some thoughts about how I might do this, or whether I should bother at all, then just leave me a comment in the comments below so that I can see what you think about tying.